Hi, my name is Mary Gitari, and I'm the founder of Brandspark PR. I'm joined here by my friends who are really cool people in the creative space, and we want to just discuss this whole issue about ArtCaffe and the competition they put out and why it rubbed people in the wrong way. I want my people to introduce themselves so that you guys can get to know them. I'll start with Mugambi and move on in a circular manner.
On Zoom. Hi guys, my name is Bukam Binteka. I am I'm a filmmaker by profession. I've been paid in exposure in many ways, which in many occasions in the multiple decades that I've been doing this. So I'd like to say that I'm an authority in this subject. Thank you.
Joyce?
Hello, my name is Joyce Musoke. I am an actress, I'm a producer, I'm a director sometimes. And yes, I have also been paid using exposure. I've been around for for 15 years in the creative industry. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Karingiti?
Well, I'm a strategist, a copywriter, creative, and yes, I have also been paid in exposure. Not as much as the other people, but it comes up. It does.
Okay. So, confession time. We've, as Brandspark PR, has handled ArtCaffe before as a brand, and we helped them to, in the previous issues that they had when they were trying to explain to the world about the croissant saga. I think you remember that. And it's been a while now. They've been doing great, I think, on the internet. So this particular issue is close to my heart. It's a brand that's close to my heart, and I just wanted to see, how do you help from a PR perspective if this hole has already been sunk? And so I want to start by asking, what did you hear when you saw that competition? Mugambi, who has been paid in exposure, what did you hear when you saw the poster on Twitter?
I would love for Joyce to go first because I think she puts it really well. Considering
Okay.
we had this conversation.
Okay. Yes. What jumped at me?
Yes.
Was the E word. It's even hard for me to for my mouth to form it. The E word, which is exposure, and ArtCaffe wanted some design work done for them for I think their holiday season cup, and they wanted to play the artists, or rather, it was a competition, and they wanted to. The prize was that your work would get to be seen, exposure, and you'd get a cup of coffee every single day for the next 365 days. So that triggered creatives, of course, because we've had this one too many times. A lot of times you've had situations where people want to get you to work for them, but then either they're paying you in kind with things that you possibly don't need, I was just going through my some of the online responses, and someone was asking, what if I live in Kikuyu or I live in Uthiru? Am I going to come into town every single day for a cup of coffee? What if I don't even like the coffee, Yeah, and I guess that just triggered creatives because it's an old story and it felt out of touch. It felt patronizing. Yeah.
Okay. Mugambi, you're ready to go? What was your reaction?
Yes, I am. So I went onto Twitter wondering why everyone was talking about this. When you get onto Twitter and everyone is talking about the same thing for a bit of time, you wonder what's going on. And you wonder whether it's going to exhaust you or whether it's going to make you mad all over again. And I thought that it was probably going to be one of the exhausting ones. I did not know that it was going to be the latter. So seeing that ArtCaffe actually doubled down and used the word exposure as a rebuttal to the initial what is it? The initial, what's that word? The initial pushback that they were receiving from people, the resistance that was being actually very well verbally expressed by people, for them to say, but guys, can you not see what we're doing? We're allowing these people's artworks to be seen, and we're paying them by exposure. I could not believe that they were actually using the word exposure as the rebuttal, not as the initial thing. They actually thought that the word exposure was a defense in this year 2020. Now, just to tag on to something that Joyce said, being given this sort of payment by exposure or by coffee or whatever is a terrible disservice to artists, because the person that wants the work says, I want you to give me your work in this way, and I will pay you in the way that is easiest for me, or I'll give some form of remuneration in the way that's easiest for me. We are a coffee house, we make coffee. We give away takeaway cups, and therefore we want your art, something that has been produced by your blood, sweat, and tears, to be used on our cups, and then we'll make it as easy as possible for ourselves to give remuneration for you, and you ought to be fine with that. And I am tired of this story. I'm tired of being told, please give us your work on our terms and allow us to pay you on our terms as well. Where do I come in that whole conversation? Wow. And to have this conversation being had in 2020 for a cafe and restaurant that is making money in these difficult times, and to have it come from a cafe that has the word art in its title, for them to completely disregard the importance of what people are doing and still not get it when they receive all this feedback. And I see that they've issued an update in the terms and said, we have listened, and I don't think there was any form of remorse. It was just, okay, we're going to follow the instructions that have been given as a result of what it is that we put out. That is completely, I'm like, have you not learned anything from the previous things in the past? And exactly how much art is involved in the ArtCaffe that you're harping about right now. That's my initial thought. Okay, that's how I feel right now.
Heavily emotive. Okay, Paul, you've been in creative rooms. You're in charge of strategy. Even Mugambi is a creative here. You know, having worked in several of the agencies. Can you help us to just get into the mind of the person who came up with this idea? What were they hoping to achieve?
Well, I think the idea was we need to do something that celebrates Nairobi. And there, I think the idea made sense. So Nairobi is our city, ArtCaffe is based in Nairobi. How do we show that in some of the things we have? And a good way is the coffee cups. Now, how it generated down to, let's make this into a competition and pay people in coffee. That's where I don't understand. So the other thing to also note is a lot of government agencies do this thing, where they do a logo competition. And theirs, by the way, is usually just harvesting ideas. Because you're going to submit your ideas, they'll pick one, but that's not usually the logo they end up with. They most probably have all these other logos and tell you, take that element, you know, and put it together, which is not the way to actually do creative. You need to then say, this is a guy we are going with, we are creating a logo, let's create, and pay for the time and energy that goes into it. This meeting just sounded like, why are we paying money when we can pay in coffee? And I'm like, but it's a service. Somebody is creating something for you. And if you've worked with artists before, which they have, there are people who shoot their pastries, they shoot their coffee, they shoot their interiors. Those people are not paid in coffee. I hope not. They most probably are paid in money, like there's some cash that actually exchanges hands. So why then create a competition and then say, we will pay you in coffee? Now, come to the fact that now there's an updated competition, which says the first prize is 100,000 or coffee. And I'm like, no, it should be 100,000 and coffee, because coffee is what we provide. So we'll provide for you the coffee. The coffee is not a big deal, but we'll pay you money for actually creating it. This all is a bit, it's like we haven't planned yet. Since you guys have said you want money, let's put money, but also give you an option of taking coffee. And then now the justification, oh, but we are giving you exposure. I'm just like, no, you're not. You're not. Because my craft will actually show for itself. When somebody creates something and somebody picks it up and looks at it and says, this is brilliant, my craft will show for itself. And that's how advertising gets done. The craft shows for itself. So that exposure story, no, even if it was just justifying, that person on social media needed to check themselves a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just add something onto that.
Sure.
If you talk about, I don't know why it is that when we have conversations about artistry, and someone is making a contribution to something or the other via art, then everything gets called into question as to how much the worth of that art is. It's never questioned. For instance, I don't know who it is that supplies ArtCaffe with the flour that they use so that they can make their dough to make their cakes. I don't know who it is who provides them the lettuce and the tomatoes so that they can make their salads, or the pasta so that they can make their pasta dishes.
Yeah.
I don't think it has ever been called into question what the worth of their contribution is to what ArtCaffe gives to people. But if we're talking about coffee cups now, coffee cups are those things that are going to be now taken out of the context of ArtCaffe and are going to interact with people on a much grander level. And yet, the contribution that is being made by someone in something that's going to be traveling much further than the food does is called into question to start with. I'm generally just tired of having this conversation every time where artists have to negotiate for the worth of their work, where people who have the actual tangibles don't have to raise a finger or ask a single question in terms of what is the thing that I'm contributing to your business worth.
Yeah. Joyce's channel, a couple of scenes on YouTube, has actually been advocating for artists to be recognized as other careers are recognized. Joyce, could you give us examples of some of the videos that you've shot and the sentiments that you are trying to pass to your channel? Joyce, you're on mute. Yeah.
I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, so a bit of background about our YouTube channel. It's called A Couple of Scenes. And it's a satirical channel where we just switch places. It's actually called If Other Careers Were Treated the Way the Arts Are Treated, or something like that. I forget the exact phrasing. And there's one particular video that we did where two artists are talking to a construction company and they want some work done for them. They want to build a gazebo. But, well, that's another story altogether. They call it a gazebo, but, as they keep describing it, you realize the whole time they wanted a house. And they want to pay for this house and all this architectural work and structure and everything. They want to pay for it using exposure, because the people who will be there and who will see it are going to give them work, future work. There'll be big names, and it's going to be on Facebook Live. And what we were hoping, the message we were hoping to put across was you would never have that kind of a conversation if you went to a construction company, for example. The other video that comes to mind is one where these two artists, they meet up with they have a traffic offense, and the cops stop them, and they have to pay a fine, but they choose to pay for that fine using a complimentary ticket, for example. You see, it's completely useless to the cop at that point. And that's our cup of coffee, really. That cup of coffee is absolutely useless to me as an artist. And that's the conversation we're hoping to start with our YouTube channel.
Okay, good. So if we were to advise ArtCaffe, if we were to go back as artists and speak to them truthfully, giving them feedback, what are some of the three things? And I want Paul to say one thing, Gambi one thing, and you, Joyce, one thing. Just think of one thing that you would tell them in terms of how we could have phrased this better, how could this experience be turned around for good?
Does
I'll
Mugambi
start.
want to start?
Let me start.
Yes,
Sure.
sure.
Because thanks to Paul mentioned the update for it's money or coffee. I just think, yeah, let's cancel out the or. Let's make it money and coffee. Why not? Yeah.
Okay, that's a good, yeah. Gosh.
I would say you really need to start listening to your people. Again, it's not it's already so much. It was already quite offensive and condescending for them to put out this offer to start with. It shows exactly where their headspace is as far as what they appreciate artistry or they appreciate about artistry. But it's not just about artistry, it's about what they think about young people or what they think about people in the up and up, or they think about people that are not on the scales of Mutua Madeka showing up on Beyonce's website. What they're saying is until you have gotten to that level, you are still going to have to, sorry, am I breaking?
I was waiting for your advice. The tip. Give us the tip, the thing.
I'm sorry. Okay, so what I'm saying is the advice I'd give is that you need to pay attention to the value of art regardless of who it's coming from.
Okay.
That's
You're breaking. Okay. It was
Who, me? Okay, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mugambi. Paul,
I think for me, this is already being done by other people. I mean, Safaricom gets photographers together to shoot for their calendar or to do different projects. There's a lot of people who have done it and gone into the market and then said, okay, how do we create this more collaboratively? I mean, Mugambi has talked about Mutua Madeka. Mutua Madeka is actually the Nairobi guy. He's the one who put Nairobi on the map. I mean, it's an easy way of calling the guy and telling him, we have this project, this is what we want to do. What would you advise? How do we structure it so that we also bring other people from the bottom rising up, or other new photographers or other new artists and creatives and designers? I think there's an element of what Mugambi has said. You have to listen. You have to listen to your people. You have to listen to what they're saying and what they want as just justification for what they're providing. Art is a service, is a product as any other product that you're bringing in to make your pastries and your coffee. So it just needs to be paid for in the same way.
Yeah. Well, for me, as I conclude, I really appreciate this opportunity to just chit chat. I think the one PR tip that I would give ArtCaffe at this time is collaboration. So I like what Paul has said, what Joyce has said, what Mugash said. And what I'm hearing is that when you're launching a competition like this, maybe bring people who are like-minded on the table and plan it out so that you have insiders even rooting for you. And maybe they're the ones even probably talking about the competition. So almost like a seeding strategy where you would begin with a few artists. Because to be honest, like I said, I have worked with ArtCaffe before, and art is at the center of their brand, because right from the way that all the different branches have been designed, each of those has been done by a different artist. And I know, for example, a lot of the photographers they're using, I think Paul talked about it, a lot of the photographers they're using for their food are commissioned jobs. I remember our friend Barbara Minishi was one of the first people to put out their work, you know, for the different branches out there, as well as our friend Paushinsky. So these are people who we know and they're working with. They've worked with bloggers, they've worked with many people in different sectors. However, when you're creating a competition of this design, maybe the thought is, can we collaboratively think about it? And that's the heart of PR. It's always engagement to drive a bigger agenda and to help people to get buy-in for something that you would like to put out into the world. So I don't know if you guys agree. I will definitely share this video and see whether some of the artists can come and say, I've been paid by ArtCaffe. My art has been used, and it would be nice if my art now was put on a coffee cup. And what would that look like? Would I need money for it? If I need a space to exhibit my art, how many people are walking into ArtCaffe like in COVID times? So almost also the second tip for me is enumerate the value that the artist would get, but let the artist be the one who is sharing what would give them that boost, the E word. What exposure is the artist looking for, so to speak, so that you're not the one, you're not paying on your terms. I think I'm just echoing what Mugambi was saying. It's not everything is on your terms. It feels like a collaborative effort. Yeah. I can give one last minute for closing remarks and we're done. Joyce? Oh, Mugash?
It's going to take a while before we're able to reclaim the word exposure. I think it's been abused a lot. And I don't think it's going to ever have the meaning that it initially did. It's been abused a whole lot. My advice is for anyone who wants to get involved in artistry, do not ask what the artist can do for you. You need to start asking what you can do for the artist. And please start the conversation from there.
Okay, love that.
I have been sipping tea, not, I'm just pointing out.
Joyce, your closing remark?
Okay, maybe just start to see the value, the value that artists are bringing to the table. And I think we just need to stop thinking that we're doing artists a favor by having them. It's actually you're using their artwork, but you kind of almost feel like you're doing them a favor. Hey, you should be lucky that we have your picture on our wall, or you have your design on our cup. So you're not really doing them a favor. Art takes time. It is work. It is you're pouring your soul out into something. It's not easy. It's actually not easy. It's blood, sweat, and tears poured into your canvas, whatever form of canvas, whatever form your canvas takes. And so we've got to see the value in that. We've just got to see the value in that. Yeah.
Paul, last closing remarks.
I think a lot has been said, but just that element you had pointed out for the process, collaborative, but also see the value in it. Art it's a product. It's somebody putting their heart and soul into it, and that has a monetary value. Above all else, it has a monetary value and a payment that needs to be done. As Mugambi has said, it will take quite a long time before we are also able to reclaim that word exposure. One of the memes from yesterday is the only exposure we want to hear is the camera and lights and the exposure to, not any other kind of exposure.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I want to release you and to thank you for being part of this conversation. We will keep coming back to you if any other people use the E word. All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.